Today, we're going to talk about the invisible threads that weave a family together. You know, for millions of people, those threads are forged in faith, through shared beliefs and daily rituals. We're going to look at how these practices build who you are, how they create connection, and yeah, how sometimes they can even cause a little bit of friction. Let's dive in. So let's start with that big question. What are those invisible threads that hold a family together? I mean, beyond love and just having a shared history. For so many families, the answer is a common faith, and it's expressed through these consistent, meaningful practices that really become the heartbeat of family life. Here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get into what makes a ritual more than just a routine. Then we'll look at how faith actually gets passed down through the generations. We'll uncover the deep connections these practices create. And finally, we'll look at the other side of the coin, when those same beliefs can cause a little bit of tension. All right, first up, let's really get a handle on what we mean by ritual, because, it's something so much deeper than just a habit or a simple routine. A lot of what we're exploring today comes from this really fantastic 2018 study out of Brigham Young University. The researchers went deep. They actually interviewed almost 200 families to understand the real-world impact of one simple ritual: family prayer. So, a family ritual isn't just doing something over and over again. It's a patterned interaction that's absolutely loaded with symbolic meaning. Just think about saying grace before a meal. The action itself is simple, right? But it symbolizes gratitude, togetherness, and a connection to something way bigger than just the family sitting at the table. And what's so important here is that the researchers didn't just focus on one group. They included Christian, Jewish, and Muslim families, which shows that the power of family ritual, well, it goes way beyond any single faith. It really points to this more universal human need for connection and meaning. So, the study uncovered 7 key functions of family prayer. It's a time for togetherness, a space for social support, it's a vehicle for passing on religion, and a forum for talking about family issues. It can even reduce tension and really foster unity. But take a look at that last point. It can also be a struggle. And we're definitely going to get into that complexity a little later on. So, if these rituals are so fundamental, how do families actually pass these complex beliefs down to their kids? Let's take a look at some of the strategies they use. In a lot of Christian traditions, storytelling is absolutely central, and the approach is really tailored to a child's age. For toddlers, you've got simple stories like Noah's Ark that teach basic ideas like love and kindness. For elementary school kids, stories like The Good Samaritan start to introduce a little moral complexity. And then for teens, you get into these nuanced sagas like the life of Joseph to really encourage critical thinking and deeper engagement. Now, in Islamic parenting, the focus goes beyond just direct teaching. It's really about cultivating an entire ecosystem of faith. The core idea is that belief is something that's nurtured through community, through daily habits, and a supportive family atmosphere. The Yukine Institute outlines 5 key habits that really show this holistic approach in action. And notice the blend here. You've got spiritual practices like visiting the masjid, mixed with relational strategies like being best friends with your kids and finding good peers. It's all about weaving faith into every single corner of life. Okay, so we've seen the what and the how. Now let's get into the why. What is the emotional and relational payoff of all these intentional practices? Why do they resonate so deeply within these families? This quote from a young woman in the BYU study is just so telling. For her, family prayer isn't some chore, it's like a security blanket. It's a reliable source of comfort and support, this foundation of serenity and connection that she knows she can always come home to. It's a pretty cool connection for sure. And that connection, it's often reinforced by physical acts. The people in the BYU study talked about holding hands during a blessing or praying together in a way that made them feel like they were on the same spiritual plane. These tangible actions make that invisible feeling of unity very, very real. Now, here's a perspective from Jewish parenting that adds another beautiful layer. Here, the value isn't always in finding one single right answer. The sacred part is the process itself, that shared journey of questioning, of searching for meaning, and connecting with a tradition that goes back thousands of years. But, anything this powerful can also be a source of strain. These deep-rooted beliefs and practices, they aren't always this simple unifying force. It can get complicated. Yeah, faith can be a double-edged sword. While it creates incredible cohesion, disagreements over belief can cause some really deep divisions. The BYU study actually captured this tension in a pretty raw argument between a couple over whether a family has to go to the same church to be unified. It shows just how different interpretations of the exact same value can lead to real conflict. And the friction isn't always about these big, open disagreements. Sometimes it's the ideal itself that creates the pressure. The study found people who were in complete agreement on their beliefs, but still felt dissatisfied, wishing their family lived up to that ideal of praying together more often. And that can create this quiet sense of just falling short. And all this brings us to our final question. Regardless of your own personal beliefs, there's a really powerful lesson here in the intentionality of these traditions. It's about consciously carving out space for connection, totally free from distraction. So the question isn't just how we can create our own rituals, but what are we willing to make sacred in our own families to build those invisible threads of unity and support?